Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Football.
Comments from YouTube. Early week edition, so it's Zolgad and Declan Goff, executive producer, co-host of Judd's Hockey Show, a man of so many hats at Score North, including going through your comments early in the week and putting them out there for us to debate, discuss, perhaps say great comment. Declan, the floor is yours. I would hope that some Kevin O'Connell responses came in from our pod that we did with Kevin on Monday. It got great reception. I think in part because folks now see that this guy is the anti-Zim. He's very personable, appears to enjoy his job. But what do you got for us today?
All right, man. A lot of comments on Kevin O'Connell. Some also other comments about Kirk. So let's start with this one from Violet Valkyrie, who says, it's so reassuring to have a head coach that not only cares about offense, but is also very smart and obviously excited about what he can get out of it. I decided I didn't care about 2022, but honestly, now I'm getting hyped up despite all of the question marks. It is kind of interesting, Judd, that you talk to someone like Kevin O'Connell, who is, he's a breath of fresh air, man. He's more positive. Now, it doesn't mean he might not be more intense behind the scenes. And actually, I can probably say for certain he probably is a lot more intense when he's actually coaching football and getting those guys ready than he's just talking to a couple of hacks like us. But how reassuring is this? I know we kind of had this first idea after the press conference, 6 months ago. But now that we're getting close to the season, it feels like that reassurance and that pep in the step and that optimism is starting to pick up a little bit more among Vikings fans.
I don't know if I'm reassured yet. What I like is that the different direction is definitely going to be, for lack of a better term, really interesting to watch. So, I just like the fact that, one, he's a very different person than Mike was. That's great. But two, he's an offensive guy. So, he's going to bring in a different philosophy. I just think that there's a lot of things about the Vikings, unfortunately, especially it felt like the last 2 years, and then last year, really more so, that had grown stale. They had just grown stale. Last training camp was miserable. Zimmer didn't like it. The players there was a palpable air that felt like humidity that hung over that camp that wasn't humidity. It was the stench of just things had gone too far. And it felt like every day in watching players and coaches was work. It didn't feel like there was any fun. Sports has to be optimism. Sports has to be, for all that a guy like Judd Zolgad can rain on parades, you can't go into a season with the coaching staff and players feeling like I do. That doesn't work. You need to have an air of optimism and belief that even if you are absolutely delusional, exists to have any chance. So I'm just so curious to see, Dex, how this develops offensively, defensively, and the direction now, because with Rick gone as well, that Kwesi goes in, the direction of this franchise will be changed. I don't know, ultimately only time will tell if it's for good or bad, but it's definitely going to be changed. And that's a curiosity that I don't think that we've really felt for a long time here.
Yeah, it's interesting from the standpoint that Minnesota sports fans are all pumped up for the Wolves, right? Because there's been major changes. They brought in Rudy Gobert. They have a new Pobo. There's a shot in the arm to get you excited for the next season. But the Vikings are basically running back their roster and saying, hey, everything's fine. We just need some tweakings behind the scenes with our coaching staff and with our developmental standpoint. And that might be it. It might just take a different voice to make this team different. I have questions on that. I don't know if I'm buying that stock on July 12th, but once the season gets going and once, especially training camp starts in a couple weeks, I think we'll also have a little bit more clarity on the direction of things going. Because like you said, last year it was miserable from Zimmer to the vaccine stuff, just to everything going on. There was too many external factors, not even just involved with the football team, that I think were having kind of a black and gray cloud over the Viking season last year.
Good call or bad call. On your first play offensively from scrimmage of the entire season, C.J. Ham was called for a false start. That set the tone.
Yes.
That set the tone for a team that was just not fun.
Sue says this was fantastic in regard to the O'Connell interview. I was pumped when we hired him, and I'm even more pumped now. If he can get Kirk to maximize his ability as he said he's expecting to do, this team has a great chance at winning the division. This season is going to be so much fun to watch. So Sue also getting pumped up for the Vikings here. But saying they're going to win the division a little maybe premature, but she's pumped up. A lot of pumped up.
But her point is an excellent one in this sense. We are going to find out, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, okay? But we're going to find out about Kirk now.
Yeah.
Kirk's going to have the support of the head coach. He's definitely going to have, I think, far more leeway to make decisions. Like he has a coach who wants him. Like this is going to answer the questions about Kirk. And for the sake of the Vikings, I hope Kirk proves all of the naysayers like us completely wrong and has a great year. But it can't just be a statistically great year. It needs to be a year where this team thrives and does well and wins games and makes a playoff run. I have my doubts there, but I also am very curious to see if I can be proven absolutely wrong. Aren't you?
Yeah, you're in a no-lose situation from that point. I would love for Kirk to take that next step. But yes, I mean, would there be some validation maybe from our standpoint of, hey, you can't fix him. He is who he is. He won't take a next step. He won't be unlocked. Sure. But I obviously trend in the direction, too, of rather being proven wrong here. And this is a show, by the way, who loves to be proven wrong. We have 2 segments on both of our podcasts each week. And even Old Tweets Exposed, I'll even include that one, where we expose our wrongness. So we are more than okay with admitting we're wrong, showing that we're wrong. But I think the cherry on top, or not cherry on top, the big steak dinner, if you will, of being wrong would be that Kirk Cousins takes this team to the Super Bowl. That'd be the delicious part.
There is no fear of the truth on Score North.
No, there is not.
We look at the truth and we just say, yeah, you know what? Got to look you in the eye, truth.
Frank, with an interesting question here, Judd. He says, is it just me, or do you guys also see in KOC a person who really has a grasp on big picture football, and he could as easily be a GM as he could a head coach?
Ooh, that's a great point. I've never thought about that, but yes, I do think he has a grasp. I don't know if he's GM material. I just have actually given that no thought, but I get your point completely. And yes, I do. I think he is focused on offense, but I don't know. I think his obsession with offense is probably more productive than Mike's was on defense. And so, yes, I think he has a better 10,000-foot view of his job. I think the old school head coaches often just grinded out the job, right? And like probably had tunnel vision on what they had to. So I totally get the point. I haven't thought about O'Connell being in a lead personnel role. But I like the fact that, yes, I think he definitely has a better grasp on or the ability probably. And I think it's true of people his age and Phil's age as well, Dex, that I think that generation has a better ability to take a step back and judge things and look, where I think guys like Zim and probably me are much more immediate rush to judgment people. And I think that's a generational thing too.
I agree. A. Jonesy says, I will admit that I have been very critical about this team, and I'm not always positive when commenting on your channel, but that comes with the years of disappointment I have seen. But KOC recharged my hope and outlook for this team and is a very bright guy, and his positivity is contagious. Skol Vikings. The positivity, man, I can see why, and I don't think this is phoniness. I think PJ Fleck has the car salesman phoniness to him to a degree. Some people would disagree with me there, but personally, that's how I look at PJ to a degree. I can see why, though, Kevin O'Connell got this job, and the Wilf said, no, this guy's ready to be an NFL head coach despite him being younger and him not having a whole ton of experience. The guy knows football. The guy, it's not just hey, there's a cultural buy-in that maybe PJ was selling here. Like, I think X's and O's wise, in fact, I would stack up Kevin O'Connell against PJ Fleck and say, give me Kevin O'Connell. Give me Kevin O'Connell, even with PJ Fleck being a college head coach. I would rather take my chances with that over someone like PJ, who's been doing it longer than Kevin O'Connell has in terms of being a head coach.
I think beyond the X's and O's, there's a very important part that separates them, and it's why one is going to get a shot as a pro coach, and one is probably a lifetime college coach, and it's this. I agree with you. I've heard, and I think that you're exactly right. Kevin O'Connell behind the scenes can be different. I think he can get mad. I think he can be very intense. Sure. I think that there is a side there that he probably doesn't want or need to show us, okay? What we got yesterday was a very relaxed guy and a guy who I think socially is very comfortable and can identify with people. But I think when it's time to close the door and talk to his coaches and stuff, that there's definitely another level or two that he can go up. When it comes to Fleck, we had Fleck in studio, I think it was after he got hired. And PJ came in. He never turns PJ off. Like, that's him all the time.
It's true, yeah.
There's no button to turn that off. And so, as a pro coach, I think he would fail miserably because adults would be like, calm down, shut up. Who are you, really? College kids like it, which is great. O'Connell has the ability, I think, to, and I say this very positively, I believe, to change and address the situation. PJ is who you get. That's him 24/7. He is wound as tight as you can possibly be. O'Connell, I think, can dial it back, can turn it up, and that's the difference between a guy that can coach adults and a guy that can coach college kids. As far as the actual football stuff goes, yeah, I think O'Connell, I hope O'Connell is a superior coach to what Fleck is. I think Fleck is a successful college coach. I think he would get absolutely annihilated by the thought processes that are used in the National Football League. But I think it starts with personality types and an ability to turn it off, which O'Connell clearly has.
One more here from Wally on the KOC comment before I get into some stuff about Kirk. Wally says, congrats on getting KOC on the show. I really enjoyed it. It's one of your best shows I've heard. Just listening to him talk football gets me pumped for the season. That's the word we keep seeing here. Pumped. I know I've been a Vikings fan since the 70s, and I need to curb my expectations, but I'm 61 years old and can't help but think my window to see a Vikings Super Bowl win is closing.
Wally.
I live in the upper Michigan and the peninsula, and most everyone here are Packer fans, including my two sons, and I tell them it's because I dropped them on their heads when they were little. I can't condoning dropping children, Wally, but yes, we would love to see you win a Super Bowl before we die. Judd knows. Judd's famous line, there's a guarantee you make it to 50. Ain't no guarantee you make it to 60. One of the best piece of advice Judd ever told me.
You just don't really concern yourself. 25, I'm going to be 30, 35. I mean, and look, God forbid, I'm not saying that this holds true. But, you get to 50, you got no guarantees. 59, you got to get through that one. I'm 52. Wally, I hear ya, and I know exactly what you're saying. And in cases like yours and mine, the time for let's wait 5 years and then it'll be great. Those times are going by the wayside. So I'm with you. Just don't drop your kids, Wally.
Quick shout out to our friends at Aquaside and aquaside.com. They have Aquaside pellets to help you remove that lake weed or that murky algae that's at the bottom of your pond. Give them a shout at aquaside.com. If you're in the Twin Cities, they're located in White Bear Lake. There's nothing worse than being out in the water and you step in that nasty lake weed and murky water. The summer of Surly, which we're about to talk about, nothing kills my summer of Surly vibe, Judd, than when I step into a lake and I step right into algae or lake weeds. It's gross. So Aquaside pellets, safe products, the EPA and DNR. Go get them now at aquaside.com.
But Declan Goff, if you are sitting on your deck, and let's just say that because of Aquaside, the water is crystal clear, right? Like just gorgeous water, and you can see the fishies, and it's outstanding. And you got your feet in the water and your legs, and you're enjoying the day, but you're saying there's something missing in my right or left hand, and that is a beverage. And you know what? You're exactly right. And I'm going to solve that problem, because while the Aquaside is doing its work, your work is to embrace, as Declan just said, the summer of Surly with a Logic Bomb, a Supreme, heck, in my case, probably a Furious, in your hand as you enjoy the summer of Surly and that water that is just crystal clear and just gorgeous. And you need one more thing, the missing ingredient, a Surly brewing product. They are all fantastic. Check them out.
A couple more Kirk comments here before we wrap up on the comments from YouTube. Pro Sports Outlook says the Vikings have one of the best offenses in the NFL, and Kirk is going to have his best year in Minnesota this season. Is this season Judd, 2022, the prime season for Kirk to have his quote-unquote best season of his career?
Define best season, because if we're saying statistically, I mean, I just don't care. If we're saying a playoff berth, a playoff run, like I do think to quote Brett Favre, pieces are in place within the next 2 years for him to do that. I am no longer I'm not going to buy into Kirk stats because I just don't care. Like there are years where quarterbacks decks don't have great stats, but guess what? They're on a team that's very successful. So like passing yards and touchdowns and blah, blah. Are they important? Sure. I'm not going to dismiss them. But I think when we're talking about, is Kirk going to have his best year? If the answer is, well, yeah, statistically, that doesn't crack it for me. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is, can you win your division? Can you get in the playoffs? Can you make a playoff run? That to me will define the end of Kirk's tenure with the Vikings.
One more here on Kirk from Brand, who says, since 2015, Cousins leads the league in 20 and 40-plus yard touchdown passes. How is that risk adverse? You cannot be this blind. He led the league in first down conversions on 3rd and 10-plus in 2021. That is by definition not risk adverse. Well, let's break down the latter part of that, of him leading the league in first down conversions on 3rd and 10-plus yards. If it's 3rd and long, and Brandon, I don't mean any disrespect here, you're passing every time. If it's 3rd and long, you're going to be passing every single time. So he needs to be put in situations where he's not in 3rd and long all the time. And naturally, if you're going to get a first down on 3rd and long, you're going to complete the pass, right? So I'm not surprised that's the case, but also he's being put in positions where he shouldn't be. And since 2015, leads league in 20 and 40-plus yard touchdown passes. Great. But at the same time, how do you not also watch when you've seen from Kirk in the last 4 years and say, Kirk, maybe take like 10 more of those targets from Conklin and CJ Ham and spread it out down the field a little bit more. That is great. He's got a cannon for an arm. No one's ever questioned the man's arm strength. I think it's more of his will to actually make those throws when he has to make those kind of throws.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing about it is to praise Kirk. Look at that arm and tell me that it's translated to the success it should. It hasn't. He has made some memorable throws as a Viking. I think it was 2018, his first year here, to Thielen in Philadelphia. Gorgeous deep ball. A contested one, it was caught, right?
Yep.
Jefferson, that Titans pass, which I think is it was the 3rd game, I think, of 2020. Jefferson's first game that I think he started.
Yeah.
Deep target, deep shot, it worked. I think the issue is this. You can torture Kirk's statistics, good or bad, into anything your little heart desires. But when you watch the games, can you tell me that Kirk Cousins is being allowed to or personally has maximized the potential of a guy with the God-given gifts that Kirk has? The answer is no. So, it's why, as far as advanced metrics go and as far as stats go, I think they're a lot of fun, and I love stats. But when you ignore what you're seeing and just say, I'm going to torture this stat to either torch Kirk or praise Kirk, and you don't include the game itself, you're doing a disservice to what the argument is. The argument is this. How do we get everybody on the Vikings to as close to a championship caliber as we can? And by the way, championship caliber does not mean statistical championships. I don't give a damn if Kirk Cousins or Dalvin Cook or Justin Jefferson or Thielen is on your fantasy league team and you won your championship because my stats were great. You know what I care about? How much success do the Vikings have as a team? And so that's the problem with either good or bad, saying, well, look at these stats from Cousins. I think what we need to look at more so often is, okay, from watching the games, what can we tell you about him? And if you don't watch the games and just go with stats because you're a Vikings fan who lives in Washington still, but doesn't watch Kirk play, then I think you're missing the point of who Kirk Cousins is.
A couple Judd comments here before we wrap our comments from YouTube edition. Michael says, big assumption here from Michael, I'm sure KOC hates Judd Zolgad right now. I love that Judd straight up was like, all right, KOC, this is what we see of Cousins. Convince me you will make him better. And also I love that KOC and his responses, even if we flop this year, I like what he is trying to do. Michael, I don't think KOC hates Judd yet. I don't think he hates Judd
Kirk Cousins
yet.
doesn't love me. KOC and I are fine. I mean, I think KOC knows my job, and he's a good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'd be a fun guy to get a beer with.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no. I think Cousins genuinely doesn't like me, which I'm fine with. I mean, that's cool.
That's
That's
fine.
fine.
Yep.
In fact, it's probably more truthful that he doesn't try and hide what might exist as contempt for me, because I appreciate that. Kevin O'Connell definitely does not. Coaches don't usually hate guys like me. They more so eventually hate the beat people who are around a long time. Like Childress and I at one time were on very good terms, and then when things went south in 2010, it quickly disintegrated. So I think what you'll find is, not to put myself down, but in the role I'm in now, I think people like me are not relevant enough to a coach because they don't see me, and it's not like they like rush to watch the podcast. I'm not relevant enough in a head coach's mind to hate.
That's very true. That's very true. L. Juve says, Judd is local fish wrap factory royalty. I've never heard local fish wrap factory.
Fish wrap is from Dan Cole, the Common Man.
Oh, is that what it is?
Because you know, the old school thing was get your day old paper, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then you wrap your fish in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's very nice to say. That's very nice to say, because it's a business I truly to this day love dearly.
But what he says is, what did you expect? I'm not surprised he got access to KOC. A lot of people are surprised we landed Kevin O'Connell in an interview. It's because we have a good relationship with Vikings PR, and all of us have been in NFL locker rooms. So I know a lot of people discovered this YouTube channel probably in the last 2 years and think, who are the three bozos and the guy on the left who never talks? All of us have been around NFL teams and NFL coaches and PR teams. Yes, PR teams, including the Vikings, all know who we are. It's a mind-blowing fact. But yes,
you know what? If you have found us and you have no idea that the guy with good hair and the old guy who seems very pessimistic and the punk, thank you.
The punk.
Thank
you very much.
We appreciate the fact that you have found us and stuck with us, and the fact that you were pleasantly surprised by the appearance of KOC is awesome. I'm glad you were surprised. I'm glad you were pleasantly surprised, I should say.
Hey, one last shout out here before we wrap up to the Meadows at Mystic Lake, which are the Legends. The Legends are back for the Land O'Lakes Legends Classic Golf Tournament on Saturday and Sunday, August 13th and 14th. Don't miss out on World Golf Hall of Famers Nancy Lopez, Amy Alcott, Julie Inkster, more as they compete at the official Legends of the Lake at the LPGA Tournament. You can check out ticket information at legendsclassicmn.com. And if you'd also like to book a tee time at the Meadows at Mystic Lake, golfthemeadows.com to learn more. An award-winning 18-hole public golf course. And yes, that Land O'Lake Legends Golf Tournament coming August 13th and 14th to the Meadows at Mystic Lake.
Nancy Lopez, you say, huh? She was, when I was a kid, she was outstanding.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun event. When we were talking to them a few months ago, we set up this partnership. They were very excited for this tournament, so it's going to be a blast. Go check it out again, August 13th and 14th. All right, Vikings feedback here for Judd Zolgad. I am Declan Goff. Write that down. Accountability session coming tomorrow. More CFL predictions from yours truly. I'm glad I can close it out with that note.
Kidding.